state of the franchise for the Chicago Bears. Now, the Bears finished the regular season with a 6-11 record, missing the playoffs, forcing them to clean house, bringing in a new GM and a new head coach. And the head coach who they recently hired was Matt Eberflus, who has been the defensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts over the last couple of years. Now, there are a lot of Chicago Bears fans who are upset with this hiring, and I understand why. Because nearly a year ago, the Bears traded up the fan to get Justin Fields. And Justin Fields is supposed to be the future at quarterback for the Chicago Bears. Well, Justin Fields had a pretty underwhelming rookie season. Matt Nagy didn't really put him in the best situations to have success. The team around him overall wasn't really all that great. So many Bears fans were hoping that this offseason that they will bring in an offensive-minded coach. Maybe a Eric Bieniemy from Kansas City, a Brian Daboll, currently the OC with the Buffalo Bills. But the Bears opted to go in a different direction. The Bears opted to go for a defensive-minded coach. And, of course, that's going to cause a lot of controversy, a lot of upset Bears fans, because you look at Matt Eberflus, he's a defensive-minded coach, and you're saying, okay, how is he supposed to help Justin Fields improve when he's a defensive-minded coach? And I definitely understand the mindset and where the state of thought that Bears fans have towards this hiring. And they have a right to be upset, okay? But it's not like the Bears went out and hired a scrub or a no-name head coach who nobody knew about. Like, Matt Eberflus has been one of the hardest head coaching candidates for over a year now, because you got to remember, around this time last year, he was also in the rumblings to be in a couple of head coaching searches, and he was probably one of the hottest candidates on the market going into the whole head coaching carousel. So it's not like the Bears ended up getting a scrub or a no-name head coach. Like, Matt Eberflus has been a pretty hot name in the head coaching world when it comes to NFL circles. So when you look at Matt Eberflus, his defenses for Indianapolis have been really good. Now, when you look at Chicago, obviously their defensive scheme is going to change because Matt Eberflus runs a 4-3 defense. Previously, the Chicago Bears have been running a 3-4 defense ever since Vic Fangio was the defensive coordinator for them back in 2015. So their defensive schematics are going to change with Matt Eberflus in at head coach now, but the defense is going to be really good. Like, Indianapolis has had some really great defenses under Matt Eberflus, including this year. So the defense for Chicago is going to be outstanding. But how's the offense going to look? Because that's really one of the main talking points that everybody has is, okay, how's he going to develop Justin Fields? Well, the answer isn't all that complicated. He just hires the right offensive coordinator to help Justin Fields and his development. And I don't understand why people have this misconception that you gotta have an offensive minded coach when you have a young quarterback. Like, you can have a defensive minded coach and still have success from the quarterback position if you have a young QB, as long as you can nail whoever you hire as your offensive coordinator. Look at Sean McDermott, for example. Sean McDermott, when he first got to Buffalo, he had Tyrod Taylor. They didn't just draft Josh Allen off the whip. You get what I'm saying? So they bring in Josh Allen, and this is a defensive-minded coach. So what did he do? Oh, he made sure that he had the right offensive coordinator that was going to be able to help Josh Allen and coach up Josh Allen and help Josh Allen develop. So the misconception that you gotta have a defense or offensive-minded coach to develop a young quarterback is false. Like, what really matters is that if you have a defensive-minded coach and your franchise opts to go in that direction, you got to hope that your defensive-minded coach is able to hire the right guy when it comes to offensive coordinator. And also, you got to make sure that you get the right quarterbacks coach in the room. It's a bunch of other things that goes into how successful a young quarterback is, other than does he have a offensive minded coach or not? Because if you have a good coaching staff, then it doesn't really matter what kind of head coach you have, because if he has that proper staff built around that knows what they're doing, your young quarterback is going to have success. So just because the Chicago Bears decided to bring in a defensive minded coach doesn't mean that Justin Fields is done. It doesn't mean that Justin Fields is screwed, because Matt Eberflus was one of the hottest names in the head coaching market. It's not like he is a no name. It's not like nobody knows who he is. And he's done a very good job as the defensive coordinator for Indianapolis over the last couple of seasons that he's been there. So moving forward, what do the Chicago Bears have to do this offseason to give themselves a shot at making it to the playoffs next season for 2022? Well, we definitely know that the offensive line is a big Achilles heel. One of the main reasons this season or this past season why Justin Fields struggled was because he didn't really have enough time in the pocket to go through his progressions and throw the football. Then you have to probably try to figure out what's going to happen with the whole Allen Robinson situation. Are you going to let him hit free agency? So then you're going to have to improve the other wide receiver position, because you already have Darnell Mooney. Now, I think that Darnell Mooney is more than capable of being the number one wide receiver for Chicago. I think that he's really special, but you would like to have another option alongside of Darnell Mooney, so you're probably going to have to address the other receiver position, depending on what happens with Allen Robinson, if you want to pay him or if you're just going to let him walk away in free agency. Then on the defense side of the football, okay, I definitely feel like the Bears could use some additional help at corner. Like, the Bears defensively don't really need a complete overhaul. Of course, they're going to have to, improve in certain positions, because, when they're making the change from the 3-4 to the 4-3, obviously you're going to have a couple of people's whose positions may change. Some people may end up going from, linebacker to DN or DN to linebacker. You guys know how it goes when people change up schematics. Sometimes people's positions may change. So you're probably going to have to find a little bit more talent that fits Matt Eberflus scheme defensively. So then moving forward, okay, you look at how Chicago is probably going to have to attack the draft, because you did give up a good amount to trade up for Justin Fields, so you're not going to have a first round pick. So you're probably going to have to attack free agency really heavily, unless this is, something of a rebuild, and this is something that the Bears aren't expecting to have like just this overnight turnaround. So it really depends on how the new front office executives are looking at the Chicago Bears as a franchise overall. Do they feel like Matt Eberflus can come in and with a couple of free agent acquisitions turn around this Bears franchise and go from near the bottom of their division to making it to the playoffs? Or are they viewing this situation as kind of like a 3 to 4 year rebuild, where this is going to take a little bit of a process? Really, ideally, I think that if the Bears can have a pretty good offseason and they attack free agency with the right mindset, and they are able to hit on a couple of their draft picks, and maybe you have one or two guys who you get in the later rounds who ends up having kind of impactful rookie seasons, that also will help you. So for Chicago, there's really two directions they could take. They could take the, the rebuilding or the retooling excuse. They can say, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and use 2022 as a retooling year. We're not really expecting to make it to the playoffs. Or are they going to try to put a big emphasis on hitting free agency and trying to bring in some impact players so they can make a shot at making it to the playoffs year one? I don't really know the direction that the Bears are going to take, but I don't really think the hiring of Matt Eberflus is bad. I don't think it's great neither. I'm on the fence. You guys know my mindset when it comes to new head coaches. I need at least a year before I give my judgment on the hiring, because it's pretty premature to judge how bad or how good a hiring is before we even see these guys coach even 1 or 2 games. So you have to wait. We also don't know what Matt Eberflus' staff is going to look like. We still don't have an idea who the offensive coordinator is going to be, who his quarterback's coach is going to be. So before a lot of people continue to pile on the Matt Eberflus hate train, like, let's just wait until he gets his staff in, and let's see who his offensive coordinator is going to be, because that's really important when you have somebody who is a defensive-minded coach. It's really important that they make sure that they nail whoever they hire as their offensive coordinator, because that's going to be the guy who's tasked with the responsibility of developing Justin Fields. So you guys let me know how you guys feel about the state of the franchise for the Chicago Bears. Overall, I think that the Bears franchise right now is pretty much in a bad state, because we don't really know what's going to happen with Matt Eberflus. We don't know how good of a coach he's going to be. We don't even know if he's going to be able to nail the right guy. But that's with any new head coaching hiring. Like, one key element to determining how successful a young quarterback is going to be is the stability that he has on the coaching staff. The quarterbacks who are most successful as first-round picks are the quarterbacks who end up having the same head coaches throughout their tenure, or they're not going through new head coaches or new offensive coordinators every single season. So for Chicago, it is really pivotal that Matt Eberflus nails whoever he brings in as the OC. That's going to be really important. So state of the franchise for the Chicago Bears. You guys give me your thoughts on the Bears franchise right now. Do you guys like the direction that it's heading in, or are you guys in a complete different mindset when it comes to the direction of the Bears franchise? Do you guys feel like the Bears are heading down the wrong path? Do you guys hate the Matt Eberflus hiring? Do you still believe that the Bears should have went with a offensive-minded coach for their new head coaching job? Let me know if you guys are watching this on YouTube, and also make sure that you check out the JT Sports Podcast. Every video that's uploaded on the channel is available in audio format on every single podcasting platform.